The sky filled with war. The alarms had not stopped for hours. From the surface of Earth, the night sky was no longer filled with stars. Instead, it was covered with shadows, hundreds of alien warships, black and jagged, blotting out the heavens. The Korthan armada had arrived. Their fleet stretched across the horizon like a wall of steel and fire, their weapons glowing with red light. People on Earth stood frozen in the streets, staring upward. Some prayed. Some cried. Others simply watched in silence, knowing what was coming. No one had ever seen so many enemy ships gathered in one place. News broadcasts filled every screen. The same words repeated again and again. The Korthan armada has entered Earth's orbit. Demands are being made. Humanity faces extinction. In orbit, on the edge of the solar system, a single human ship floated in silence. It was not sleek. It was not flashy. It was massive, dark, and quiet, as if it had been built not to impress, but to destroy. It was the horizon's wrath. Inside, Captain Elias stood on the command deck. His face was calm, but his eyes carried the weight of centuries. The crew around him worked in silence, every hand steady, every motion careful. They all knew what they were about to face. "Report," Elias said, his voice firm. The tactical officer replied, "Enemy ships holding position. No attack yet. They're waiting for our surrender." Elias gave a small nod. "Of course they are." Across the void, the Korthan flagship sent out a broadcast. The image appeared on every human screen, every station, every city. The Korthan commander was tall and monstrous, his scaled face lit with red fire. His voice was deep, filled with contempt. "Humans, you are warned. Bow to the Korthan Empire, or watch your world burn. You cannot resist, you cannot fight. You are nothing." The transmission ended in silence. On Earth, fear spread like wildfire. Messages poured into the Union Council chambers, begging for negotiations, for surrender, for anything that could save their families. Leaders argued, shouted, and panicked. But the final decision was not theirs to make. High above, on the horizons. Wrath, Elias closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered the old law the one whispered through the galaxy for centuries. Never threaten humanity. The Korthan had forgotten. Now they would learn why the rule had existed in the first place. Turn to his crew. Power up the core. Bring weapons online. The deck lights dimmed. A deep hum filled the ship, like the heartbeat of a giant waking from long sleep. The runes carved into the raft's black hull began to glow faint blue, spreading across its surface until the entire vessel shimmered like a star hidden in shadow. The crew moved with precision, no hesitation. They knew what this ship could do. The galaxy had never seen it, never even suspected it was real. For decades, it had remained hidden, waiting for this moment. Core at 90%. The engineer called Elias stood tall, his voice calm but sharp as a blade. "Let the galaxy watch. Today, they will remember who we are." The Korthan armada shifted into battle formation. Their ships spread across the planet like vultures circling a corpse. Thousands of weapons powered up, red beams burning against. The darkness from Earth's surface. People saw the sky ignite with light. Children screamed. Parents held them tight. Soldiers braced for orders they knew would never come. And then the first shot was fired. Single Korthan cruiser unleashed a beam strong enough to pierce a mountain. It slammed against the horizon's wrath and vanished. The energy disappeared. Into the ship's shields as if it had never existed. Gasps filled the bridge. Across the Korthan fleet, commanders shouted in confusion. Elias's lips curved into the faintest smile. So, the game begins. He raised his hand. Target the nearest cruiser. A hum rose from deep within the ship. The Wrath's forward. Cannon opened like the eye of a god. A flash of blue light tore through the void, silent but unstoppable. The Corthan cruiser didn't explode. It didn't burn. It simply vanished. Gone. Even debris remained. Silence fell over the galaxy. Billions of eyes across thousands of systems watched the live broadcast in shock. One human ship had erased a warship as if it were nothing. The Corthan armada roared in fury. Hundreds of ships turned their weapons toward the lone human vessel. But Elias stood calm, his eyes fixed on the stars. Let them come. The horizon's wrath glowed brighter, its shields alive, its weapons charged. It was no longer just a ship. It was a message. And the message was clear. Never threaten humanity. The first shot. The void exploded with fire. Every Corthan warship fired at once. Red beams and plasma torpedoes rained down like a storm, crossing the sky in blinding arcs. The barrage lit Earth's orbit until it looked like a second sun had risen. The power of it was enough to shatter continents, to vaporize moons. And all of it was aimed at one ship. The horizon's wrath. On Earth, people screamed as the night turned to burning daylight. Cities braced for impact, shields raised, expecting death. But when the storm cleared, there was no fire raining on the planet. Instead, there was silence. The wrath still floated above the Earth, untouched. Its black hole glowed faintly blue where the enemy's energy had struck. The massive ship looked less like a target and more like a mountain, immovable, eternal. On the Corthan flagship, officers shouted in disbelief. Impossible. Shields cannot absorb that much power. But it had. On the Wrath's bridge, Captain Elias stood steady, his eyes calm as his crew confirmed the impossible. Damage report, he said quietly. The engineer shook his head in awe. None, Captain. Not a scratch. Elias's lips curved into a thin smile. Good. Now we answer. He turned to his weapons officer. Target their lead destroyer. Aye, Captain. The crew worked quickly. The Wrath's forward cannon came alive again, the runes along the hull glowing brighter as energy surged to the front. A low hum filled the ship, deep and heavy, like the sound of thunder rolling just before a storm breaks. Fire. The cannon unleashed its fury. A single beam of pure blue light shot across the void. It moved so fast that the enemy ship never had time to react. One heartbeat it existed. The next it was gone. Not destroyed. Not broken. Simply erased. Billions of viewers across the galaxy gasped. News networks replayed the moment instantly, zooming in again and again. One human ship had erased an alien warship with a single shot. The Corthan commander roared in fury, his voice echoing across the comms. Kill them. Kill the humans now. The entire armada shifted, hundreds of ships surging forward. The battle had truly begun. The Wrath moved like a ghost among them. Despite its size, it glided with impossible grace. Each time the enemy locked on, the ship bent space itself, warping aside just before impact. And every time it fired, another enemy ship vanished into nothing. 3 more down. The weapons officer reported. Vora, at Tactical, looked up with wide eyes. Captain, they don't understand what they're fighting. They're panicking. Elias kept his gaze forward. Good. Let fear do half the work for us. Enemy ships opened fire again and again, filling the void with desperate light. But the Wrath devoured their energy, shields glowing brighter with each strike. On Earth, the people watching began to cheer. First whispers, then cries, then shouts across every city. We can win. Humanity can win. But the Corthan weren't ready to give up. From the depths of their formation, a massive dreadnought moved forward. Larger than the rest, its hull was covered in scarlet armor, bristling with weapons. That's their flagship, Jex said. It's powering something big. The dreadnought's central cannon began to glow, red energy swirling until it looked like a miniature star forming in its core. The weapons officer's hands shook. "Captain, if that hits us, it won't," Elias cut in firmly. His eyes narrowed, locked on the screen. "Prepare counterstrike." The dreadnought fired. A colossal beam of red fire roared across the void, thick enough to engulf a city whole. It slammed into the Wrath's shields, pushing them harder than ever before. The ship groaned under the pressure, the bridge shaking. Lights flickering. For a moment, the crew thought it might break, but then the shields shifted. The energy didn't break them. It bent around the hull, curving space until the beam twisted away. The Corthan officers stared in horror as their own superweapon turned back toward them. The redirected energy slammed into their flagship. Was a sun. For seconds, the entire battlefield burned white, blinding every eye. When the light faded, the Corthan dreadnought was gone. Nothing remained but scattered ash. The galaxy had just watched the impossible. The greatest ship of the Corthan fleet destroyed by its own weapon. On the Wrath's bridge, silence hung heavy. Then Elias spoke, his voice calm and cold. "Send them a message." The comms officer nodded, opening every channel. Elias's voice carried across the stars. "To the Corthan, to Earth, to every empire and every watcher in the galaxy. You came here with an armada. You thought you could break us. Instead, you've reminded the galaxy of the rule." He leaned forward, his eyes like steel. Never threatened humanity. Ghost in the void, the wreck of the Corthan flagship still burned like a dead star. Its remains drifted across the void, glowing red, scattering into the pull of the nearby planets. Billions of eyes across the galaxy had watched it die, and yet the battle was not over. On the horizon's Wrath, the crew held their breath as new signals appeared on the scanners. "Captain," Jack said, his voice tight, "I'm detecting hyperspace openings. Dozens of them." The screen filled with red markers. Ship after ship dropped into real space-fresh Corthan reinforcements. Cruisers, carriers, destroyers. Another armada. Twice the size of the first. The crew went silent. Even the hum of the Wrath's core seemed to fade under the weight of what they were seeing. Vora spoke, her voice low. "Captain, we can't fight them all." Elias stood steady, his gaze fixed on the incoming swarm. His face showed no fear, no hesitation, only resolve. "They think numbers matter," he said quietly. "They've forgotten what fear feels." Like the second armada spread across the system, moving in perfect formation. Their ships lit the void with red light, weapons charging, engines burning. They formed a wall of fire, trapping the Wrath in the center dot from the lead vessel. The new Corthan commander broadcast across all channels. His voice was cruel and confident. "Humans, you destroyed our flagship, but you are still only one ship. One ship cannot fight 1,000. You will break, and your world will burn." The broadcast ended with a roar of alien voices. On Earth, people trembled. Cities fell into silence. Even after the miracle of the first battle, fear clawed its way. Back, could one ship really hold against an endless tide? Elias's eyes narrowed. He turned to his crew. "Then let's remind them what one ship can do." The Wrath moved dotted first. The alien fleets didn't understand. The massive human ships slid between their ranks, gliding through gaps as if the enemy lines weren't even there. The Corthan fired in every direction, beams of red fire crossing the void like burning spears. But the Wrath was never where they aimed. It bent space itself, warping from point to point, slipping through holes in their formation like a phantom. One moment it was in front of them. The next it was behind them. And each time it appeared, a ship vanished. A cruiser blinked out of existence, erased by a single shot. A carrier erupted into flames, torn in half by the Wrath's beam. The human ship didn't fight like a warship. It fought like a ghost, untouchable, unstoppable. On the bridge of the alien fleet, panic grew. Their weapons, our sensors, can't track them. One officer screamed. The commander slammed his clawed fist against the console. They're only one ship. Keep firing. But the more they fired, the more fear spread. Their weapons missed. Their formations broke. And the humans kept killing. Inside the Wrath, the crew worked with silent focus. The bridge glowed blue from the ship's energy veins, light reflecting in their eyes. 20 enemy ships destroyed. The weapons officer reported. 32. Checks corrected as more red markers disappeared from the screen. Vora looked back at Elias, awe in her expression. Captain, they don't even know how to fight us. Elias's face was calm, but his words were sharp. That's because they're fighting with numbers. We're fighting with history. The galaxy watched in silence. News feeds carried. Every moment, the Korthan's endless fire, the human ship's impossible maneuvers, the vanishing warships. Across distant worlds, children whispered the old law again. Never threaten humanity. On neutral planets, leaders held emergency meetings. Should they ally with humans? Should they prepare for war? No one knew. But all of them felt the same fear. If one human ship could do this, what else was Earth hiding? The Korthan tried one last desperate tactic. Their ships formed a sphere around the Wrath, sealing every exit, every path. Thousands of weapons aimed inward, ready to fire at the same time. They're trying to box us in, Jex warned. Elias's eyes narrowed. Then we break the box. The Wrath's core flared brighter, its glow spilling across the void. Space itself twisted around the ship, bending like water under pressure. Then the ship disappeared, warping straight through the enemy lines. The entire sphere collapsed, ships crashing into each other, their own fire tearing them apart. From the other side, the Wrath emerged unscathed, its cannon already glowing for. Another shot. On Earth, shears erupted as the impossible continued. The alien armada that was supposed to erase them was collapsing instead. The humans were losing. They were winning, but then something new appeared on the scanners. Captain. Jex said slowly, his voice shaking. I'm reading. Another signal. Different energy. It's not Korthan. Elias turned sharply. Identify. The screen flickered, showing a single enormous signature emerging from hyperspace. Not a fleet. Not dozens. Just one. A ship so massive it dwarfed everything else. The Korthan armada faltered, even their commanders falling into silence. The crew of the Wrath stared at the display. Stunned, Vora whispered, That isn't Korthan. That's something else. Elias's eyes darkened. And it's watching us. The dreadnought falls, the void turned silent. Every Korthan ship froze in formation as the new arrival emerged from hyperspace. It wasn't just a ship, it was a mountain forged from metal and shadow. Its surface pulsed with strange white lines, glowing like veins of light. The crew of the Horizon's Wrath stared at the scanners. The readings didn't make sense. The ship was larger than a fleet, larger than anything human eyes had ever seen. Captain. Jex whispered, his hands trembling over the console. The power output. It's off the charts. That ship could crush us. Vora's voice shook. That's no Korthan design. They're terrified, too. Elias stood tall at the center of the bridge, his gaze locked on the colossal ship. He didn't flinch. He didn't blink. They came for us, he said quietly. Not for the Korthan. The alien supership sent a signal. Its voice spread across every channel, every language. Cold, steady, like an ancient machine that had been waiting too long. Humanity, your time has come. The Korthan, once so proud, suddenly seemed small. Their commanders barked orders in panic. but their fleets didn't move. They too were waiting to see what this new giant would do. On Earth, fear returned. Families clutched each other. Reporters went silent. The world that had been cheering moments ago now whispered one word: Dreadnought. The ship's hull shifted. Panels slid open, revealing weapons that looked like glowing spears of light. Each was the size of a city tower, humming with power. Charging something, Jex warned, eyes wide, and it's aimed. At us, the crew tensed. The Korthan weren't even targets anymore. Only the humans. Elias's voice was steady. Brace for impact. The spear fired. It was not a beam. It was not a missile. It was a star condensed into a lance, tearing through the void at impossible speed. The Wrath moved instantly, warping sideways, but the edge of the blast clipped them. The ship shook violently, alarms screaming. Panels cracked, sparks flew, and half the crew was thrown from their stations. "We can't take another hit like that." Vora shouted. Elias gripped the console with iron strength. "Then we won't. Let them fire again." The Wrath darted forward, engines flaring blue. Against the dreadnought's massive body, a human ship looked like an insect. But it moved with ghostly precision, slipping past fire, bending around space, leaving the dreadnought's beams striking empty void. The crew worked in perfect rhythm. Weapons roared. Plasma tore into the dreadnought's shields. Explosions rippled across its outer shell, but the giant did not fall. "Minimal damage," Jex reported, voice tight. "Its shields are absorbing everything." Vora clenched her fists. "Then we aim for what shields can't hide." The Wrath vanished into warp for an instant, reappearing directly above the dreadnought's spine. "Target their core channels." Elias ordered. Blue fire lit the void as the Wrath's cannons unleashed everything. Beams pierced deep, carving into the dreadnought's glowing veins. For the first time, the giant shuddered. Its light flickered. The galaxy gasped. The human ship had heard it. The dreadnought's response was brutal. It turned, releasing swarms of drones, thousands of smaller ships, glowing like sparks. They moved faster than anything seen before, surrounding the Wrath in a storm of light. The crew's breath caught. "Captain," Jex warned, "they're cutting off every escape path." The drones fired in unison, beams crossing, filling the void with a deadly web. But the Wrath twisted reality again, phasing through space, slipping between the burning lines. Its cannons spun, erasing dozens of drones in bursts of fire. But for every one destroyed, 10 more appeared. "They'll overwhelm us," Vora said through clenched teeth. "Not if we strike first," Elias growled. The captain made his choice. He ordered a full dive, straight at the dreadnought's heart. Gasps filled the bridge. The drones chased them, the dreadnought's weapons turning inward. It was madness to charge a ship that size. Madness or brilliance. The Wrath accelerated, glowing brighter and brighter, its core straining. The dreadnought unleashed its main spear once more, the white lance of destruction screaming toward the human ship. But Elias didn't dodge. He plunged. Through the blast, the shields of the Wrath screamed, blue light clashing with white fire. For one endless moment, the ship was engulfed in the storm. The crew thought it was over, and then the Wrath broke through. It roared out of the fire, scarred, but alive, cannon glowing brighter than ever. "Fire!" Elias shouted. The shot pierced the dreadnought's chest. For the first time, the giant screamed. Its lights flickered violently. Its glowing veins burst. Entire sections of its hull collapsed into fire. The galaxy shook. The impossible had happened. One human ship had made the dreadnought bleed. But before anyone could cheer, the scanners lit up with something worse. Jex's hands froze. His face went pale. "Captain, there's more. Dozens, hundreds." On the screen, new signals appeared each. one as massive as the dreadnought. More giants were arriving. Vora whispered in horror. That wasn't their fleet. That was only their scout. The crew stared in silence as the void filled with dreadnoughts. An entire legion of giants emerging from hyperspace. The legion of giants that the galaxy turned to silence. Every screen, every scanner, every eye in space saw the same thing. The void filling with dreadnoughts. One after another, they emerged from hyperspace, each as big as cities, each glowing with the same terrible white veins. Dozens, then hundreds. A storm of giants. On the bridge of the horizon's wrath, no one spoke. The crew stood frozen, staring, as their scanners overflowed with signals. This isn't a fleet, Jex whispered, voice cracking. This is an extinction wave. The lead dreadnought spoke again, its voice spreading across every channel, its tone cold and merciless. You wounded one of us. That will not be allowed again. Humanity will not rise. Humanity will end. Earth's cities trembled as the signal reached them. Families cried out. Leaders tried to shout orders, but their words drowned under the weight of fear. For the Korthan, once so arrogant, their fleets pulled back in silence. They no longer wanted war with humans. They wanted to survive what had just arrived. The Wrath floated small against the endless army. Its hull glowed with scars from the last battle. Sparks flickered inside the bridge. Vora clenched her fists until her knuckles turned white. We can't fight that. Not all of them. Jex's voice shook. One ship against hundreds? Captain, this is suicide. All eyes turned to Elias. He stood tall, shoulders steady, his face calm, even as the galaxy seemed to end around him. Suicide? Elias said quietly, maybe, but not surrender. The dreadnoughts began to move. Their glowing weapons opened like wounds across the void. The army stretched into formation, surrounding the Wrath, cutting off every path. Then, without warning, they fired. Thousands of white lances tore across space. Each one could split a planet. Together, they lit the stars with death. The Wrath vanished into warp, just as the beams tore through its last position. The void behind them shattered, chunks of space debris scattering into nothingness. Warp unstable. Jex cried, trying to steady the ship. We can't keep this up. They're tracking every jump. Vora slammed her hand on the console. We'll run out of power before we even escape one sector. Elias's eyes burned. Then we don't run. We turn. The crew looked at him in shock. Turn? Toward them? Jex asked, horrified. Toward their command, Elias said. His voice was sharp as steel. Every army has a leader. Every swarm has a brain. Find it. Jex hesitated, fingers shaking as he scanned the dreadnought signals. Finally, he froze. His face went pale. Captain, he whispered, there is one. In the center, bigger than the rest, twice as large. It's not a dreadnought. It's something else. Vora leaned forward, her voice low. A flagship. The Wrath accelerated, diving toward the center of the storm. The Legion reacted instantly, drones spilling like fireflies, dreadnoughts twisting. To block the path, the Wrath burned brighter, slipping through gaps, tearing apart drones, weaving between beams of light that could shatter worlds. The bridge shook with every close hit, but Elias's voice never wavered. Closer, push closer. Last, it came into view the heart of the Legion, a ship the size of a moon. Its hull glowed brighter than suns, covered in ancient markings. Where the dreadnoughts looked alive with light, this ship looked eternal. Its core pulsed slowly, like the heartbeat of a god. Jex's voice broke. That's not a ship. That's a world killer. The world killer turned its massive front toward them. Its weapons hummed, brighter than all the others, but it did not fire. Instead, the same alien voice returned, only now it was deeper, colder, heavier. You seek the heart, you seek me. The crew felt the voice inside their skulls, shaking. Their bones. Some fell to their knees, clutching their heads. Vora forced herself to speak, her voice cracking. What are you? The answer came like thunder. We are the architects. We shaped galaxies before your kind learned to crawl. You were meant to serve, but you chose to fight. For that, you will burn. Elias stood firm, unbroken. His voice cut through the fear. Then burn us. But know this, humans don't bow. Not to kings, not to gods, not to you. The Wrath's weapons roared, blue fire striking the World Killer's shields. Explosions rippled across the void. The architect's ship barely flinched. The World Killer finally moved. Its core glowed white-hot. Its weapons hummed like a dying star. The architect spoke one last time. You are bold, but boldness ends in ashes. The flagship fired. The void split open. The Wrath vanished inside the white storm, swallowed whole. Every signal went dead. Every human and alien watching screamed in horror. The ship that had stood against dreadnoughts, the one hope of Earth, was gone. The Wrath reborn the galaxy thought it was over. On every channel, the image of the horizon's wrath being consumed. By the architect's fire, burned into memory. Aliens whispered that humanity's last hope had fallen. Even Earth's leaders bowed their heads in silence, certain that their lone protector had been turned to ash. But deep inside that storm of white light, something stirred. The wreck should have been dust. Instead, within the shattered hull, blue veins of energy pulsed, slowly at first, then brighter, like a heartbeat refusing to die. On the bridge of the Wrath, alarms screamed. Panels hung loose, sparks rained from the ceiling, and the crew lay stunned across the floor. Smoke filled. The air.Jex coughed, blood running from his forehead. We're still here? Vara dragged herself up, eyes wide. Through the cracked viewport, she saw the impossible shields glowing faint blue, holding against destruction that should have erased them from history. We should be dead, she whispered. No ship survives that. From the center chair, Elias stood. His uniform was burned, his face cut, but his voice carried the same unshaken steel. We aren't dead, because this ship isn't just a ship. The crew looked at him in confusion. What do you mean? Jex asked, fear still clinging to his words. Elias's gaze turned to the floor beneath them, to the glowing veins of blue energy that now stretched across every wall and panel. This ship was built with something no alien has ever seen, something only Earth dared to create. The glow brightened. A low hum filled the bridge. Vora gritted her teeth. You mean the core? Elias nodded. The Wrath doesn't run on ordinary power. It carries a fragment of the singularity drive. Jex froze. His jaw dropped. That's impossible. That's banned. Every council, every world outlawed it centuries ago. A drive like that could tear space apart. Exactly, Elias said quietly. And that's why we never told them. Humanity hid it, guarded it, and now we use it. The hum grew louder, like thunder trapped in metal. The blue veins spread until the whole ship glowed, alive with fire. The cracks sealed, the hull reforged, weapons recharged, as if fed. By a star itself, the Wrath was reborn. Outside, the architect's dreadnoughts circled. They had stopped firing, watching as the impossible happened. A ship they had destroyed was alive again, stronger than before. The World Killer spoke once more, its voice colder, sharper. You touch Forbidden's fire. You do not understand what you awaken. Elias's lips curled into a thin smile. Oh, I understand, he said. I understand that you fear it. The wrath moved, faster than before, faster than physics allowed. It darted through the void like lightning, leaving afterimages in space. The dreadnoughts tried to track it, firing. Beams of white death, but the ship danced through them, untouchable. Jex clung to his console, shouting, "Captain, the drive this much power it will burn us alive." Elias's voice was steady. "Then let it burn. Better ashes than chains." The wrath fired. Blue lances ripped through the nearest dreadnought. Shields collapsed, hull melted, and the massive giant split in two. For the first time, the architect's legend screamed not with words, but with the raw sound of loss. On every screen across the galaxy, beings gasped. "The humans," one alien whispered. They killed one." A dreadnought wreck. Drifted, glowing blue fire consuming it until nothing remained, and the wrath kept going. On the bridge, Vora's hands shook as she clutched her seat. "We're tearing them apart, with one ship." Jex's eyes widened with terror and awe. "We're not flying a ship anymore. We're flying a weapon of gods." But even as the wrath shredded through dreadnought after dreadnought, the world killer loomed ahead, silent, watching. Its core pulsed brighter, like a heart preparing for fury. The architects finally spoke again. "You awaken destruction you cannot control. The fire in your hands will not only kill us, it will consume you." The words echoed in Elias's mind, but he did not waver. "Then we take you with us." He gave the order. "Full power. Aim at their heart." The wrath surged forward, faster than thought, blue fire blazing across its weapons. The crew braced. Themselves, their ship screaming as the singularity drive pushed beyond all limits. Alarms blared. Panels shattered. The hull warped from pressure. Jex shouted in panic, "Captain, if we keep this up, the core will collapse, will tear a hole." In space itself, Elias's eyes never left the world killer. Then that hole will be their grave. The wrath fired. A beam of blue light, wider than a city, split the void, striking the world killer's shields. For the first time, they cracked. The galaxy roared in shock as light exploded across the stars. The architect's flagship trembled. Its voice finally broke, no longer calm. "This is not possible," the crew gasped. For a heartbeat, it seemed victory was near. The impossible had been done. But then the world killer's core flared brighter than a sundot. It was angry now. The architects spoke once more, their tone turning from godly calm to pure wrath. "If you want fire, humans, then you will drown in it." The core unleashed its fury. White fire erupted, swallowing everything in its path. The final flame, the storm was endless. White fire poured from the world killer, swallowing stars, bending space like glass under heat. The horizon's wrath shook so violently that panels ripped from the walls and flew like knives. The crew clung to anything they could, their faces pale with terror. "We can't take this." Jex shouted, gripping the console until his knuckles bled. "The shields are breaking." The alarm screamed. The hull groaned. It was the sound of a ship at its last breath. Elias stood at the center of the chaos, staring into the storm outside the viewport. He had led his people this far. He had made the architects bleed. But now it seemed the end had finally come, and then he heard it. A voice. Not the architects, not his crew. Something deeper, echoing through the steel and circuits of the ship itself. "Do not fear. I am here." Elias froze. His eyes darted around. "Who said that?" Vora gasped. "Captain." "It's the core." The glowing blue veins that had spread through the ship now pulsed brighter, like veins of living fire. The hum grew into a low, steady heartbeat. The wrath was alive. Elias's voice was steady. but his chest pounded. "What are you?" The voice came again, calm but ancient. "I am the flame your world hid, the last gift of Earth's lost age. I was made to sleep until the day came when gods walked against men." Jex stared in disbelief. "You're telling me the ship has a mind?" "Not a mind," the voice replied. "A will. Humanity feared me, so they locked me away. But you woke me when you chose to fight, Ilias Cade. You gave me purpose." Elias's throat went dry. "Then help us, save my crew." The blue veins flared, and for a heartbeat the storm outside slowed, as if space itself bowed to the new fire rising within. "I will burn once. Only once. My flame will end either them or us all." The crew looked to Elias. Fear, hope, and despair mixed in their eyes. Vora whispered, "Captain, if we unleash it, we might destroy everything." Elias clenched his fists. "If we do, nothing. We lose anyway." He raised his voice so the whole bridge could hear. "We didn't come here to live forever. We came here to make sure the galaxy remembers humanity doesn't bow." He looked to the core. "Do it." The voice of the Wrath echoed across the bridge. "Then let us burn together." The ship shuddered. Blue fire erupted from its hull, brighter and hotter than any star. The storm of white fire met the storm of blue, two oceans colliding in the May. Void. The dreadnoughts screamed as their hulls melted, their shields collapsing in seconds. Entire fleets vanished in silence, consumed by the clash of impossible flames. The galaxy watched in terror as one human ship faced the fury of gods and fought back. The world killer roared, its voice cracking into rage. "You dare! You cannot destroy the architects." The Wrath answered not with words, but with fire. Its core pulsed one final time, a heartbeat louder than thunder, and unleashed everything. A beam of pure blue tore through the storm, piercing the world killer's core. For the first time in eternity, the architects screamed not as gods, but as mortals who finally knew fear. Their great ship split open, white fire spilling out like blood. And then, silence. The void-cleared dot where a galaxy-killing fleet once stood. There was only drifting ash and broken stars. The Wrath floated in silence, its hull glowing faint, its crew staring in disbelief. Jex whispered, voice trembling, We did it. We killed them." Vora wiped tears from her face. "No, not we. Humanity did." Elias stood tall, though his body ached with exhaustion. He looked out into the dark, into the ruins of gods, and let the weight of victory settle on his shoulders. But then the blue glow began to fade. "Core?" Elias called, "Stay with us." The voice returned, softer now, fading like embers in the wind. "My flame is spent. This was always the end. Carry my story, Captain. Tell them humanity does not kneel." The glow vanished. The hum stilled. The ship was silent again. The galaxy saw it all. On every channel, on every world, the image spread. One human ship, alone, standing in the ruins of gods. The architects were gone. The war was over. And in that silence, across millions of systems, one truth took root. Humanity was not to be mocked, not to be ignored, not to be feared as monsters, but to be remembered as the flame that stood against the impossible and won. Elias lowered himself into the captain's chair. His crew sat in silence, broken, tired, alive. He whispered, almost to himself, "We are the fire in the dark." And the stars, for the first time in 1,000 years, seemed to shine brighter. End of story.